Hello everyone. So my research proposal has to do with gender stereotypes on social media. So just to start us off, we're going to look at why we study gender stereotypes. And that's because stereotypes are important to study because they often oversimplify a person or group of people in a society and force them to maintain these labels over time. And it's important to look at how people feel about gender stereotypes on social media in particular because it's such a prominent form of communication in our society today. Some of the supporting literature that revolves gender stereotypes, gender roles, and even gender performance um, talks about the different expectations that people have in society for the different things that people may make them feel pressured to do or the negative consequences involving that. So, to start off, I'm going to look at actually the benefits of stereotyping. And a study of 77 college students at a Southwestern university showed that both women and men were likely to stereotype themselves based on explicit gender stereotypes if it actually benefited them in the long run. So, basically, they would perform a stereotype and accept that stereotype if it was beneficial to their overall ego, or say one of the things that they did was women who did bad on a math test were more likely to accept that stereotype that women are bad at math um, if they got a bad grade on that test. So the next piece of literature I want to look at is the negative consequences of gender stereotyping. And in one study, they asked university students to perform a cognition test that previously had no gender gap, and then they told them negative messages and stereotypes about their gender, and saw that when they took this test again, it negatively affected the performance of both genders. And then if we look at those negative consequences in more of a contextual situation, um, there was an ethnographic case study of female university faculty. Researchers found that these women performed their gender in context with the stereotypes about women in education, changing their identities to actually conform to this standard and match these different expectations for women that are in a university setting. And I thought that was really interesting because not only do gender stereotypes affect you personally, but they also affect you on a career level, social level, and it affects every aspect of our lives, really. Um, then I want to kind of switch over to looking at the media part of this. So, gender as a reflection of society on social media is really interesting because we see it in many different ways, but Bailey and LaFrance looked at avatars on social media and presented them to study participants, seeking if they believed the avatars were female, male, or gender neutral. And what they found is that people who had more conservative ideals to begin with were more likely to believe that the male looking avatar was the correct one or the one that should be used. So that was really interesting as well, and that reflects males' position in society as being higher up and having that overall power. So if we look outside these dominant stereotypes of heterosexual, heteronormative men and women, we can look at other research that has been done, and there has been research done on stereotypes for gay men, and I thought that was really interesting that researchers found in a study that a lot of men that were on a platform for straight acting gay men reinforced stereotypes about gay acting gay men, and even other stereotypes revolving around masculinity, women hating, and the way any gay man should act. So that was a really interesting study that definitely supported this outside of the usual stereotype, but actually ended up going back to support these dominant stereotypes in society. So then for the final piece of literature that I'll talk about in this presentation is the double-edged sword of having negative messages about gender stereotypes and their consequences, and then people's social media involvement. So, a lot of the research done on social media consequences about gender and things like that revolve around body shame and sexuality. So, one of these studies found that women are often more likely to have feelings of body shame and decreased sexual assertiveness when involved on Facebook. And then for my method section, we're going to look at the research question, how do students feel gender stereotypes are being portrayed on social media? And then within that, we're going to have a cross-sectional survey of 100 male and female students at Carlow, and the surveys will be given to students from various majors and backgrounds. Their survey will test the hypothesis that students are believing that gender stereotypes being portrayed on social media are reflective of gender stereotypes in real life. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.